well, welcome everybody. We've got some familiar faces and some new friends with us today. So thanks for joining us to talk more about finding your roots and how it can inspire family research projects and digital storytelling. And we're going to talk about how Apple Clips can be used to do digital storytelling projects with your students. Hi, Traci, welcome.
Hello, happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
So happy to see so many of you with us. We weren't sure on a holiday if we'd get any turnout. So thanks for joining us. This is awesome. My name's Traci. If you were at the stop motion workshop or any of the media labs last year, then you've seen me before. Happy to be back in the media lab sharing about a pretty awesome tool called Apple Clips, a really nice video tool that can be used for digital storytelling. I'm here in Billings. I'm a tech integration specialist, working mostly with kindergarten through third grade teachers and their students. But something that I love about this tool in particular is that it truly can be used by kids as young as kindergarten, all the way up to high school and adults. It can be a great teacher tool as well. So I'm excited to share with you all today. So thanks for joining.
Thanks, Traci. I'm quickly turning off all those things that go bing and bong so that it doesn't show up here. As those of you know, my name is Nikki and I'm the Director of Education at Montana PBS, and I came from an elementary teaching background and I've been in this role for about 5 years. And I'm really excited to support teachers across the state of Montana to use tech in their classroom and explore media literacy. Moving along, as you fill in your sheet, those of you who've been with us or watched the recordings, you know that this Media Lab started last spring. When we couldn't go work with teachers in person, we created this series to give teachers some hands-on experience using digital tools. And Traci and a host of other teachers helped me do these workshops. And the idea was we just took one tool and we went deep with just one tool and let everybody practice and get used to it, so that hopefully when you hopped off the workshop, you felt really comfortable using it and exploring it with your students. Then we got this awesome grant from the PBS station in DC that produces Finding Your Roots that would help us promote the new season of Finding Your Roots, but would also maybe inspire digital storytelling using these tools. So this was a cool opportunity to take these two ideas and pair them. And the grant required that we had partners. And so I reached out to the Montana Historical Society and Humanities Montana, and they partnered with us. They've been great friends to this project, helping us promote the resources. They're responsible for bringing many of you here. But then they've also shared the resources that they have that are aligned to digital storytelling and family research projects, and we'll be sharing those a little bit later. What we hope the big goal is that you are inspired to do some kind of family research project with your students, however that looks, whether it's showing Finding Your Roots to your class or just watching it yourself and using that process to inspire your own students, that you will have your students create some kind of a digital product with one or more of the tools that we're sharing, and that you'll share those products with us, and that we can share them along our social channels and even on air. It's not a requirement, but the general manager in Missoula is especially excited to see what your students might come up with. So reach out to me if you've got things to share. So Finding Your Roots, we want you to tune in on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on Montana PBS for season 8 of Finding Your Roots, which, as many of you know, a show in which our host, Henry Louis Gates, sits down with a celebrity and talks to them about their past and hands them a book of life, which is essentially a scrapbook of everything that his team of genealogists and DNA analysts have dug up about the celebrity's life. This season of Finding Your Roots is all about people who have untold stories in their past. There have been lots of different controversial reasons that have kept them from knowing about what their pasts were like. You can watch Finding Your Roots on television, which is the old-fashioned way to do it. Everybody's still doing it. But if you're into streaming, you can also watch it on Montana PBS Passport. And in just a bit, I'm going to show you how to find it for teachers on our website, PBS Learning Media. So as I mentioned before, Finding Your Roots can be found on our PBS Learning Media website. And I'm going to share with you one resource that I think is particularly inspirational from the collection today. And we'll show a video clip as well as go through some of the lesson activities. But first, I'm going to actually just navigate out to PBS Learning Media to remind you how to do that. So if we go to pbslearningmedia.org, this is our website of teaching resources. PBS stations all over the country upload content to this site. It is always free for teachers. It's changing every single day. Every single station is uploading new content all the time. So if you think you saw it a few months ago, be sure to come back and check it out now, because there's always new content and new things to find. The Finding Your Roots collection can be found just by typing Finding Your Roots into the topic box. And you can see we've got a couple choices. Finding Your Roots, the Seedlings, is the summer camp with all the curriculum for a summer camp for taking kids through a DNA analysis and genealogy unit at a summer camp type experience. But you can also scroll through to any of these other video clips that come after with Finding Your Roots after it. I'm going to go to the main collection. All 7 seasons have been archived on this website and added here, and each of them has an episode with support materials that goes with it. Season 8, as we're in right now, the support materials for that season are currently in production, and they tell me we should be able to see them live on the Learning Media site as early as the beginning of March. But in the meantime, we're using our lessons from the past seasons. So the lesson and the clip I want to show you today is here, and it's linked in the notes if you want to follow along. But it's the Irish immigration to the United States. And it's the story of Nora O'Donnell and what she learned about her grandmother's immigration to the US. The clips on Learning Media have captions, and so I highly recommend turning those on so kids can follow along. It's also a good trick that if you want to look at a video, but your kids are still in the room and they're working and you don't want to interrupt them, just turn off the volume and turn on the captions, and you can still see the content of the film. This particular one, some of them also have transcripts attached to them. And so sometimes you can download the transcripts and read through those. This particular one doesn't have that option, however. So we're going to watch this clip from Finding Your Roots. As I said before, the show is very simple in structure. It's Henry Louis Gates sitting at a table with a celebrity, and they're looking at a book together. But I think what is really important is if you notice the reaction that the celebrity has to learning about their past and what that means to them and their identity and their sense of identity. As I was looking at the new social emotional competencies that Montana adopted, personal identity is a big one in helping kids understand who they are and where they come from. And that's where these family research projects are a nice step in that direction and helping kids identify themselves and from where they came. So we'll watch this clip.
On the surface, a politician, a journalist, and a fashion designer might seem to have little in common. But my guests actually share a great deal. Each has ancestors who crossed the globe in search of a better life. And as we began investigating their roots, it was also clear that many of their family stories had been lost on the journey to America. It was time to recover them. I started with Nora O'Donnell and her maternal grandmother, a woman named Mary Monahan. We found Mary on the passenger list of a ship that arrived in New York on January 20th, 1930.
I'm just going to interrupt for a minute. And I'm sorry if I messed up your viewing experience, but I want you to notice while we're watching this clip, when you think about digital storytelling. So Henry Louis Gates is telling the story of Mary's life, and they have found these primary source documents. And I want you to notice how they have put them together and made them visually appealing to tell this story. So it's not just him talking, it's cutting to this actual primary source document. It's zooming in and out. It's flashing to images, to photos and things like that. Plant that seed in your mind as you're thinking about how you might inspire your students to create similar products. And I'll spoiler alert, the Apple Clips app that Traci's going to go through in a bit is really good at capturing videos similar to this, where it goes back and forth between images and photos and documents and video, and all of that can be put together with a narration over top of it to tell a similar story like the one you're watching here. So I just want to clue you into some of those production techniques that the show is using that can be easily replicated with your students.
She was on her own, 23 years old, with just $20 in her pocket, taking a chance that would be celebrated in her family for generations to come.
The stories I'd always heard about my grandmother was that she was the oldest of 9 kids, living in Belfast, sent to work at the age of 12. And context important, right? Northern Ireland,
Right.
Protestant controlled, my family's Catholic, that they lived in this cordoned off area,
Right.
oldest of 9 kids, that she was very smart, but she had to work. She had to go support the family. And so at 12, she went every day through barbed wire to go to this linen factory. How she garnered up the courage to board a boat all alone and sail across the Atlantic. No idea who's going to pick you up on the other end, just that idea, the trust that somebody's going to meet you.
Right.
Or what life lies ahead. To me, that's the most incredibly courageous thing.
Though Mary arrived here with almost nothing, she quickly built a life for herself. She found steady work, married Nora's grandfather, a fellow Irish immigrant named Edward O'Kane, and became an American citizen. From the outside, at least, it seemed that all the risks she'd taken had paid off. But Mary was harboring a secret. Could you please turn the page? Nora, this is the title card for your grandmother's citizenship papers.
It says Mary Teresa Monahan, and then it says canceled.
Canceled. Do you know what that means?
Does that mean she was denied citizenship?
It means that your grandmother's United States citizenship was revoked. Did you ever hear anything about this?
No.
Any guesses as to why her citizenship would be revoked?
I have no idea. No idea.
Mary lost her citizenship because she had lied when she applied for it, claiming that she was a single woman when she was actually already married to her husband, Edward. The reason for the lie? According to the United States government, Edward was an illegal alien, and Mary was worried he'd be deported. This came as a shock to Nora. Growing up, she'd heard a family story that Edward had come to America as a stowaway on a ship from Ireland, and that he had then gone to Canada in order to re-enter the United States legally. But the details of this story had always been vague, to say the least.
My mom said she has no idea when it was, only that she was thinking it might be after the Easter uprising or, who knows? This is, Northern Ireland at the time was, there were signs everywhere that said no Catholics need apply.
Family story is a little bit like the game of telephone. You know
Yeah.
telephone?
Yeah, right.
All right. So let's see how much of the way the story got to you, how much of that was true.
Okay.
All right. Could you please turn the page? This is a list of passengers aboard the SS Caronia, who sailed from Belfast on August 23rd, 1924. Would you please read the transcription?
Where-bound Quebec, Edward O'Kane, 27, class 3rd, country of intended future permanent residence, Canada.
This documents the moment your grandfather, Edward, immigrated to North America. He says he plans to stay in Canada, but we know within 3 weeks, he hopped a train across the border to the United States and somehow avoided presenting the required paperwork.
So he wasn't a stowaway, he was on a train.
He was legally on that ship to Canada, but he came illegally to the United States.
Through Canada.
Through Canada.
There you go.
But imagine this, your grandfather lives under the radar for 16 years.
In America.
Illegally.
Wow.
We don't know how Edward managed to get by for so long as an illegal immigrant. We do know, however, that he was finally granted legal residence status in 1943 through a program that sought to legitimize undocumented immigrants who were deemed undeserving of deportation. We also learned that Mary had her own citizenship restored 2 years later, compelling Nora to consider her roots in a new light.
Wow. I think very few people would look at Nora O'Donnell on the CBS Evening News and think her grandfather was an undocumented immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
But he was.
But he was.
He was.
And the system forgave him.
And I think that's going to be a huge surprise to my family that my grandmother lied about her marriage status in order to protect her husband.
I call that a loving fib.
Yeah, it's not a, right.
And the government called it fraud and perjury or whatever.
Yes, it's a reminder that, you know, that we all come from somewhere. And sometimes we forget where we came from.
Our job is to remember what your ancestors chose to forget.
Yes, that's amazing.
Right. So this is the point in the program where I ask for anybody to share any thoughts or things that came up during that clip. I always look at those clips and whether or not there's something you think your students would be able to watch with interest or not. Sometimes clips just inspire us as teachers and help us to plan a lesson that would have similar value for kiddos. But there's certainly kids that could watch a clip like that and get what they were supposed to. But did anything come up for you while you were watching that video that you'd be willing to share either in the chat box or you can unmute and talk?
And Nikki?
Yeah.
What I think was really valuable in there is when he talked about the fact that family histories can be like that game of telephone. And the fact that, you know, what we think we know may not really be the truth or the whole story. And I think that's an important thing to teach kids when it comes to, you know, what sources do you believe or not? And sometimes even that, you know, you have to check things.
Mm-hmm.
I think of when they said that all the family stories that I've heard with my family, knowing my family and knowing the people who tell those stories, I'd say that few of them are completely true, you know, but I think that, I mean, even in her case, I think that's just an important thing to remind kids that even though it's been told to you, as it passes down, it changes. The story does.
Yeah, we always said that, you know, my grandma had a flair for telling really compelling stories, but we were pretty sure that she embellished about 50% of those stories. We'd always have to divide it by a certain number to know just how historically accurate it was. Thanks for sharing, Jerry. Did anyone else have any thoughts about that clip?
I guess my other thought with that is, and I'm pretty sure that Gates kind of wanted to make that point on purpose, is you look at what's going on in our country now with undocumented aliens or immigrants or whatever, and you look at that where that could be the history of anybody.
Yep.
If that can be the history of Nora O'Donnell, then that could be the history of us, and we don't even know about it. And so once you learn that, it makes it it gives you a different point of view when you look at current events going on, to realize that that's always been an issue and that it could be part of any of our histories.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. That stuck out to me too, was when she said, I don't think anyone would think that Nora O'Donnell on the CBS News would be the relative of an undocumented immigrant. You know, that's an assumption we never would have made. And how many of the rest of us could easily say that for sure. Jody Sandrew, who was our presenter last week, said, you know, it's important for kids to know we were all immigrants. You know, we all came from immigrants. Every single one of us come from somebody who came here from another place for a better life, and helping kids understand that is really important. All right, well, thank you. Again, we never want to tell you how to use these resources. We just hope that by sharing them with you, we inspire new ideas and new thinking, and hope that as they bring new ideas into your classroom, that you'll share with us as we go along. I'm going to pass this over to Traci now, and she'll share her screen and start talking about the digital storytelling piece and Apple Clips. So take it away, Traci.
All right. Okay. So always takes a moment. Here we go. I find myself, I think I need to watch those clips a couple times. I find myself just getting so caught up in the stories. I almost forget what we're here doing for a minute. But those were great points. So this digital storytelling piece, I just love this each week, just looking at all of the different media that students can create to share their learning and share their thinking. This week we'll be focusing on video with the Apple Clips app. I know Nikki had kind of mentioned this in her emails that went out, but Apple Clips is an app that's only on iOS devices. So it does have to be an Apple device, either an iPad or an iPhone. It's sort of like maybe the cousin to iMovie. So if you're familiar with iMovie, Apple Clips is similar in some ways. I think iMovie is a little bit more in depth than Apple Clips. So I really enjoy how Apple Clips lets me as a teacher and my students create a really nice, professional looking, I think, video with a lot of really easy to use tools. I have used this, like I mentioned at the beginning, with really young learners, but it can also be used really nicely by older students as well. So Apple Clips, let's kind of blow through here. It is free. So that's another thing that I think is amazing. While it's a shame, I know that we don't have access to it on other devices like a Chromebook or something. I do think it's an amazing tool that we have for free on our Apple devices. So just like iMovie, we have access for free on those native devices. Know that this is a pretty powerful tool that you can access for free on an iPhone or an iPad. I use it on my iPhone a lot just to make quick videos, even like of my kids or like trips that we're on and things like that. It's a great app. I think, let's see, sometimes when I have those little, there we go. I sometimes forget where I put links and where I haven't. So on that little slide that we were just on, if you click on that little iPad there, it will open a screen that kind of takes you to the Clips page. So if you haven't already, this will take you to where you can download clips onto your iPhone or your iPad. And then it does just kind of walk you through some of the elements and things that you'll find in Clips. So if you click on that little iPad, it'll take you there. I'm going to show you a couple of examples, and these weren't created necessarily specifically for this Finding Your Roots series, but there are some nice examples here of what teachers and students can create using Clips. So I'm going to play a few of these. see. Some of them, oh, there we go. Okay, I don't know if this one has audio. There it is. And I'll pause that one there, even though I was kind of getting into the music. What I really thought they did a nice job of with this particular example is how you can use those elements like stickers, little arrows and labels and that type of thing to either label an important photograph or piece of the photograph or video, and then point out those important elements. So just noticing those little stickers and labels. If you search, if you're on social media, if you're on Twitter, this hashtag right here, classroom clips, lots of teachers share some nice examples using that hashtag. So this one I thought was a great idea of a teacher using it as sort of a tutorial or on how to do something. So I'll show a little bit of this one. Some schools have like student tech groups, and they have these students make how-to videos like this. And I'll stop that one there too. But again, really just noticing how it can really point out those different steps by utilizing the stickers, utilizing those little labels. And then this one was created by a student, I think 4th grade. Let's see if I can make it a little bigger.
This is Civil War Facts by Tyree. The Civil War began April 12th and ended May 13th. The Civil War started at Fort Sumter. The Civil War was between the northern and the southern states. The northern states had more men in the war. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
I love the like little call out speech bubbles that they put on there. So again, just kind of noticing how students took photographs. They had obviously done some research and then took some photographs from textbooks and things that they were reading and learning about, and then put this together into the video to kind of document and share that learning. So a few different examples there just to get a feel for
Hello.
what Apple Clips can do. We'll do a little demo here in a minute, but sort of as you're watching those examples, as you reflect on the video clip that Nikki had shared, and as you play around with this app here in a few minutes, I'd love for you to just kind of be thinking about how this can be related to the Finding Your Roots series. What types of projects could you ask your students to create? That would be sort of, digging into their families, sharing maybe that family history and that sort of thing. So if you come up with those ideas, again, unmute at any time, share, drop your ideas into the chat box. We'd love to hear them. These are a few things that I had thought of because it's a video tool. I think, of course, my mind went immediately to interviewing a family member, being able to maybe speak with a relative, a grandparent, actually capture them on video, telling a little bit of their story, and then editing that all and making that into a video, I think would be a perfect use of this tool. Maybe even just thinking of a particular story or moment in your family's history, something that grandma always talked about, or even a favorite like recipe or meal or dish that you often made together. Maybe you can tell the story of why that was important. I also loved, Nikki and I were chatting right before this began, but that focus on the photos. So even though this is going to create a video, it's really easy to include those still photos. And so if you have, a source document or a recipe or still photos of some of those family members, to be able to add those photographs into this clips video, you can add voiceover to that and tell about why it's important. You can add those elements that we saw in some of those examples, that little arrow pointing like, check this out, that's my grandma's name, in this document. So that you can also really call attention to the photos and the documents and those types of things using this tool as well. The other idea I thought of was just thinking of places. Maybe there's an important place or a historical event that happened and it had an important part of your family's history, doing some research into that and then being able to share, kind of similar to that Civil War project. But just being able to share that and then maybe talk about that connection and why that was an important part of your family's history. So again, just a few ideas as you're using this tool. If you are thinking of others, we'd love to have you share that out in the chat box or just by unmuting and telling us. This is like a little video here. I'm gonna do a live demo. So I'm not gonna play this video right now, but I did wanna stick it here in the slides because sometimes I know we see something and then when we go to do it in a week or two, it's nice to have a little bit of a refresher. So this is from the Apple page, just a quick little getting started with Apple Clips. If you click on this link here as well, it takes you to the Apple Teacher Learning Center. This is a space that's really full of some wonderful resources. This in particular is going to walk you through the Clips app, and it just kind of tells you, there's short little videos you'll notice to kind of take you through each piece of this process. But if you go to the Apple Teacher page, I don't know if it'll let me go to the home page or not, you'll see that there are resources like this for all of the Apple tools. So if that's something that you are interested in digging a little bit more into, maybe Keynote, maybe looking at Pages, how you can use these for teaching and learning, the Apple Teacher Learning Center is a really fantastic resource. So check that out if you're interested, if you need a little Clips refresher, or are interested in learning about any of those other tools. You can go through an Apple Teacher program and receive certification as an Apple teacher. So if you like doing those sorts of things and gaining badges and certifications, all of that is there. Oh, well, look at that. So this kind of highlights again that Apple Teacher Learning Center. The other resource that's really very helpful are these Everyone Can Create guides. These were put together by teachers. There's guides, a teacher guide, and then there's these guides that you could give your students access to. And I don't know, I think this will take me to my iBooks and it's not opening for me nicely. If you kind of get in here and click around to see some of the screenshots, it's just laid out so nicely, especially for if you're just kind of not sure where to start. It will say activity 1 and it walks you through all of the steps for a beginning activity, and it's kind of scaffolded. So you'll start small and then sort of work up. Again, if you look at the Apple Education, here's a few little screenshots here. So it does just kind of show you how it explains what you're going to be learning, what you're going to be using, what element you'll use, and then has those step-by-step guides. So if you look down here, you'll notice there's teacher guides and there's one for early learners. And then these are those Everyone Can Create guides that you could share these activities with your students. So some really nice supports if you feel like you want to try this, but you need some extra ideas and support there for getting started with your students. Those guides are great. So I'm going to do, let's
Tracy,
see.
you've got a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
I don't really know the answer. How big of the files, how big are the files that we create? They're video files, right?
Well, yeah. Can you create, I don't know, they're video files. I've never, I think a video yearbook would be cool. I've made a ton. I've never run into any trouble, you know, like running out of room or anything like that. So I think you can create as big, I think the video files themselves can be as big and have as much as you need. Typically where I run into trouble is then trying to offload it somewhere. Sometimes I have to make that a little bit smaller, like trying to get it into my Google Drive or something, just to share that. So it would be a matter of sort of thinking about where the best place to share that yearbook would be, but this could be a super cool, like virtual yearbook. That's a really fun idea. Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing that and then let's see, wake up my iPad here. I just saw I had a software update. I was in some classes and our IT department, God bless them, just, you know, they see a software update and so they just push it out. So I was in some classes last week and today, and we're in the middle of trying to do something and iPad just shuts down and starts installing that update. So I'm glad mine isn't automatic like theirs are. I get to control it on my own. So that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and open that Apple Clips app. Here's what, always be ready for it because it opens up right to your beautiful face. So I usually have this projected on the giant screen, you know, at a school. And so your face shows up nice and big right away. There's lots of different elements to this. So one of the easiest things to do is just sort of recording a video, whether it's a selfie video or you flip that camera around. So here I could flip the camera around and face it at someone across from me if I were trying to do that, say, interview style, having somebody just talk. Or I could just put this video on me and I could talk. Something that's really cool, I'm just going to record something. And I guess I haven't tried this projecting before. So let's see what happens. Oh, okay. I was curious if it was going to let me record or not, since I'm also projecting through the computer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this tiny little thumbnail down here. Oh, that's lovely. Across here, you'll see the toolbar. And what I like is this effect. So I'm going to tap on the effects. And one of the things that's really neat about this app, I think, are these live titles. So if you click on that little speech bubble, this will add live titles. So as I was speaking, it would basically put like closed captioning at the bottom of whatever I said. I can edit the text. So oftentimes before I publish this anywhere, I would click on edit text and just kind of see if it picked up exactly what I was hoping to communicate. And it looks like it did. This is unusual. Usually it doesn't pick up my voice very well, but maybe I want to add some punctuation in there. If I did want to edit or change anything, I could go back through and correct those words. So I'm going to go ahead and say done. And then you'll notice here that I can pick different kinds of live titles. And so I'm going to go ahead and just choose this one here I like. I'm going to go ahead and just choose that. And then I'm going to hit play so you see what this will do. I don't have my volume playing from here to the computer, but you notice that as I was speaking, it puts those caption or that live text. That's probably one of my favorite parts of this app, is how easy it is to add those captions. So again, thinking about those interviews, talking to grandma, being able to then have those live titles, those captions across the bottom to view as well. I could also, I'll go ahead and just tap on that same video again. I have some other effects that I can do in there as well. You do have some filters. These are sort of those stickers and labels that I was talking about. So if I wanted to add any of these elements, I could click on it, and then that text is editable. So let's see. I could add a label that would live on there. Same with, get to the end there, effects again. Same with stickers. And again, when you kind of play around, there's a lot in here, so you can kind of just search around, but you'll notice if I scroll a little bit, you'll notice some of these elements. I like these Ted Lasso. If you've watched Ted Lasso, I like those. Those are kind of new. But even just sort of these little like arrows to point something out, or if I choose something like this, it's got like an animated movement to it. So if I pick something like this, and I could highlight again, maybe there would be a piece of text or something, or something from a photograph that I really wanted to point out. I could put that there, and you'll notice how it's animated. So it really draws some attention to those particular pieces. So there's lots to sort of dig and play in there, but I do think utilizing some of these effects to highlight and point out some of those things can be really fun. Notice you can also sort of like trim and split. So there are a little bit of editing in there. Let's say I had recorded that video and I only wanted this sticker to show up for the beginning of the video. I could split that video. So I could pick where I wanted to split it, and then split. So now I could remove the sticker from over here, and it would only stay in that first video. So sometimes I have these elements there and they're going so long that the video has changed, and I don't necessarily need to continue to have the sticker pointing or those things pointing out. Splitting that video will kind of help you put, okay, I want the sticker on this part, maybe my introduction part, but then I do want to kind of split it so that I don't need that sticker going on for the whole rest of the video. An example might be an introduction. If you were interviewing grandma and you maybe wanted to put her name or something, maybe I would have the sticker at the beginning of that video that could have her name. And then I could split that video so the rest of it wouldn't have that sticker or that name distracting the whole time. So something to play around with a little bit. If you have media already recorded that you want to add, you can do that as well. So if you click on the little picture or image button right here and click on photos, it will pull up your camera roll. So you could insert a video that you've already recorded, or you could insert a still photo as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and always such random stuff on here. I'll just go ahead and click on this one and say add. And then it's asking me an important question. If I just want to add this to the project, I could click add to project. If it's something that I'm going to want to record my voice over and say something, I want to preview and record. So I'm going to tap on that. And let's say this is a really important photograph or document that I want to add to this video. I'm now, in order to add it to the video, just because I've clicked on it, it's not really there. So it's important to kind of pay attention to the bottom of the app and actually see the clips. So until they show up here as a little thumbnail tile, they haven't actually been added. So if I X'd out of here right now and started doing something else, it wouldn't include this photo. I have to actually record it in first. So I'm going to use this big pink button here. And now I can record my voice telling why this particular image is so important. Now you'll notice since I've recorded it in, it does show up as a thumbnail down here. So now it's part of my full video. If I tap on that thumbnail, I have that same toolbar that I had before. If I do want to add those live captions to it, I could come up here. So again, I could edit that. That wasn't quite what I wanted it to say. And then I could choose what kind of caption I want it to have. If I wanted to point out something in particular, maybe I want like this little arrow or something to show up, I could add that here. And now so it would show those certain things. So it's not added until I kind of record it and put it in there. If I just say photos, I'm going to put this one in there, add, and add to project, that's going to just automatically add it in there. When I do it that way, I'm saying there's really nothing here that I need to say or record over it. I just want to add that image into my project. I can still add the elements, but it's not giving me the option of actually recording anything in there. So you can add, again, videos already recorded. You might have noticed there's like a trim tool. So if you upload a video in there, you can trim it. Like maybe you want to take out just a minute of it. You can do a little bit of editing in there and just get the piece that you want. The other thing that you can do in here is adding in some posters. So you might have noticed I have this option here. Instead of a photo, I could also add a pre-made poster. And they're just kind of title cards. So I think these can be kind of nice. When I'm working with students, I always ask them to put one at the beginning that's sort of like their cover, and then one at the end, kind of like you noticed in that Civil War. They had something at the beginning and something at the end. And then I think they're nice transitions as well in the middle of a video. If you want to move from talking about something, move to the next thing. Maybe I started with the interview, then maybe I would put a poster or a little title card in there. Now I'm going to talk about the connections I made after listening to that interview. So maybe I would put that in there as a little transition and then move to my own video, move on from the interview. There are some here at the beginning that are just still, there's no movement in them. So all of this is editable. So whatever it says, you can grab it and edit it. Notice again, it's not visible down here along my bottom toolbar. So I haven't actually added it yet. I need to record it into my video. And I could either just hold it down and not say anything, or I could narrate it if there was something that I wanted to include. And then I could just tap on it and move it to where I want it in my video. There's also some that have a little bit of movement to them. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Let's see. Sometimes they take, there's a lot in here, so they can sometimes take a second to load. Okay, I know this one has a little movement, so I'll go ahead and use that one. I notice it's kind of just downloading to my iPad to begin with. So I can add it to my project. Once it's there, I'll be able to edit that text. Oh, there it is. Okay. I can edit the text to say whatever I'd like. And then again, I need to, it's not visible at the bottom, so I'm going to have to record that in. But those ones I think are really cool because they do add that extra kind of that animated element to it that I think is really neat. So some of them are still, I think most from the top are still, and then the further you go down, you'll notice that there's some movement in there. Once you have, I've got quite an example here. Once you have it put together, and it does save automatically. So if you started it up at the top where it has kind of all of those little squares, this is kind of my dashboard where projects are saved. So I could stop working on this one now, and then the next time I open it, it's going to be saved here and I can continue adding to it. Once it's all done, you'll notice that I do have a music note up at the top. Those examples that I showed you had some music playing in the background. You can connect it to your iTunes. If you have any music that you own in iTunes, you could connect it there. I like their soundtracks. And again, I think it just adds that extra, like it just makes it seem really well packaged and professional when you add that little bit of audio to the background. You can click on them. So let's see, ones that I don't have downloaded. If I click on one, you'll notice it quickly downloads to my device. And then I can, oh, again, I gotta figure out when I put my iPad to the computer, the sound doesn't work, but I could then listen to it. And then when I find one I like, if I just tap on it and go back, that's now saved across the entire video. You have to do just one audio element across the whole video. You can't change different audio clips. But now, if you could hear, when I pushed play, it would play that. And it does do a nice job of, as you're speaking, it recognizes that you're speaking and it'll kind of quiet that audio in the background. And then it will get a little bit louder again once you have stopped speaking. The other thing that I'll notice that I've had the mistake of doing a few times is, let me show you the mute button really fast. So when you click on, and again, it's each individual clip has that toolbar. This one I hadn't recorded any audio, so you'll notice that it's muted. This one I had recorded, and so that mute button isn't on. If I tap it, they would still see the live titles across the bottom, but wouldn't hear my voice. Sometimes when I record something like this, where I didn't want there to be audio, especially if I'm in a classroom and there's background noise, it'll pick up the background noise and think that there was speaking, and it won't automatically mute. So I've done that before where I think I've got it all nice and polished, and then when I go to play it, there's some like random sort of talking and background noise in the audio. So I've learned the hard way a couple of times. Now I do kind of, before I publish, just sort of click on each clip like this and just sort of double check it and make sure that mute button is where I want it to be, whether I want my voice to be heard or if I do want it to be completely muted. It shares really easily when you're all done. This little share, I saw a thing on Twitter the other day that said, is there a name for this? And somebody said the Sharrow, which I really liked, that little sharing arrow. Once you click on that, you can see that you can save these in a few different places. Here it's showing me any of the apps I have connected that would allow me to send it there. It's showing me those options. I could also just save it to my camera roll. So from here, it just kind of depends on what you're planning to do with this. I work with kindergarten through third grade. Most of our kids use Seesaw as a digital portfolio, so it's super easy for us to then just take this video, export it to Seesaw, and we're done. You'll notice that Google Drive comes up on here as well. I could also share this to my Google Drive and have it saved there. And then a few other places too, if you wanted your students to share it. It was an assignment in Google Classroom. They could share it and attach it in Google Classroom classroom. Or again, sometimes I just save it and have them airdrop it to me, and then I can do whatever it is that I need to do with it. So that piece is just kind of up to you as far as what you're planning to do with these and where would make the most sense to have your students send it, but they do share out pretty easily. Questions about that? Anything you want me to show you again? I always do this. I never have a really cohesive example when I just start grabbing random stuff. We'd love for you to kind of spend a few minutes, if you weren't while I was talking, open up, whether it's your iPhone or your iPad, open up clips and just kind of spend a few minutes exploring and playing around. You can make something random like I did with what you have on your device. It doesn't matter what you're creating. Or if you'd like to be a little bit more focused than I was, usually when I do this with students the first time, I do like an all about me or my favorite book, something to give them a little bit of focus. They could just tell about themselves or use the camera to take pictures out of a book that they love and tell about their favorite pieces out of the book. So just take a few minutes and create something, just practicing using the video tool, maybe adding in some of those effects, playing around to see how those live titles work, adding some posters in there. And then as you're working, just let us know if you have questions.
Traci, I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever used this to have yourself or your students, because I work with younger students like you do, where you use like a picture book or something and you read the book aloud and follow along, or have kids do that themselves and create files of books that you or they have read?
Yeah, I have. I've used both this and I think, Nikki, don't you have someone showing Adobe, or you already did the Adobe Creative Cloud Express?
Yeah, we did Adobe Spark, now Adobe Cloud Express last week. And that was the one that younger kids can't use because they have to be 13 or older. So yeah, I think this one is much more user friendly. And I just did something similar in a classroom last week with Shadow Puppet too, that operates about the same way, that allows you to upload pictures, audio record over those pictures, and then it uploads really nicely to wherever you want it to go. I like this one a little bit better just because I don't think it has as many features that distract kiddos.
Agreed. Yeah, I've used both of the, just for myself, when people want like an audiobook, I've used this. I've used all of those that you mentioned, Shadow Puppet, but it does work really nicely to just snap a picture, add my voice to it, because I can just hold that button down and record. One thing that I didn't show you, you can, when you're recording, let's see, let's add something in here. Done. X. I'm going to add a photo. And let's see, I might grab this and say add, and I'm going to record over it. So while I'm recording, when I click on that pink button, notice how that little, oh, now where is it? Usually a little like lock comes up, and I can put, there it goes. And I can I drug it to the left, and now I don't have to hold it down the whole time. I could record and read whatever is on the page. I could talk about what's on the page, and then I can click stop. So kind of holding it and then dragging it to the left for a second kind of locks that record button on. So then I could just read the words on the page or talk if you're doing a longer video, rather than having to hold it down that whole time. But yeah, it does work really nicely for that. And then you could, again, export it to as a video, send it to Seesaw, put it in the listening center, whatever works well for you, but it would be really nice for little read alouds. It does have to be, so you probably have to be able to update. So if you click on your settings on your iPad, and mine isn't updated because I just got, I just got my, like, you have to do your update. So in my settings, when I click on software update, so it's telling me I need to go to 15.3. So if I go back to general about, it must be like 15.3.1 and I'm at 15.3. This is the newest software is 15.3. I'm finding a lot of stuff is starting to not, like, we have a ton of iPads in our district, those older minis that won't go past iOS like 10 or 10.2. And we're at 15 now. And so we're running into a lot of troubles trying to use those. So that's probably, so what happens is Apple updates the iOS, and then all the app developers have to update the apps to make it compatible with the newer iOS. And then oftentimes it stops working with the older iOS. So that's probably the problem, Sharon. If you're able to do the update, that might help, but I don't know.
It looks like it's just music that's not.
Oh,
You don't have any music, so you can probably use all the other features in the app for now. And then if you were to go and run the update, which probably will take like all night.
Yes, I find that out in classrooms. We're done.
I like
using
start
it
my
every
updates
day.
before I leave in the evening, and then
Yep.
go. And then you
There-
should have that music piece.
Yeah, that is one thing I truly do love. I think they're a really powerful tool. I think there's just so much flexibility. I love the mobility of them. I do think running into these app updates and iOS updates can be a little bit frustrating and kind of cumbersome to manage sometimes. So that can be sort of no fun.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm with you too. Like, I love them, but there's just no perfect device
Mhm.
or tool.
Yep.
They all take a grain or more of patience.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then on the other hand, I saw a Chromebook somebody posted on Twitter today with half the keys picked off, and then the kids had tried putting them back in different
Yes.
onto. So
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, go ahead and play. And then we'll challenge you to create something, and we've actually got a way for you to share it when you're done. Traci will show you on the screen here. We have this QR code, which if you have an iPad, you can hold the iPad up and scan this QR code, and it's going to take you to a Padlet wall where you could share your video to the Padlet wall so that we can see everyone's. And I've got one there that you can look at to kind of see the example. Oh, look, you got the update. Good job, Sharon. Yay. Awesome. So
Mine doesn't wanna, I'll try with my phone. Mine doesn't want to see that.
you let me, I might need to change let me know if the settings
Okay, let
are
me try.
funky. Got it.
It worked on my phone.
I don't have approval required, so it should take you there. Oh, yep, there you are. And then if you just hit the plus sign, it'll pop up with a little box, and then you can share it as a photo. So I guess the first step is once you're in Clips, you use the share-o, which is my new favorite term. Thank you for giving me that. Use the share-o to save the video to your camera roll on your device. But the share-o will bring up lots of sharing options. So you could add it to Google Drive or Seesaw or whatever you're using. But for our purposes today, share it to your camera roll. And then here from Padlet, you can upload it from your camera roll to our Padlet here. But play for a little bit. I think we'll give them 10 minutes, Traci, to play and create something. I've got something I'm really excited to work on and share here.
Hopefully it's better than mine. I'm the worst, like it on the spot examples. I'm really bad.
No, and I think that's important for this thing. It's like when we're learning to use a tool, and I always say this, like put the content to the side, just figure out the features. So if it's random and the pictures don't go together and all it is just, it's a mess, we can't use it to learn until we understand how to use it first. So create something ridiculous right now so that you're comfortable using it with kids. And again, let the kids create something ridiculous to start as well. So that when it's time to do a family research project or something a little bit more substantial, they got all that out of their system.
Yeah, definitely. If I don't let them do that, it's so hard to focus and want them to actually publish or do something because they just want that time to explore the tools. So I find that it really helps me in the long run to have given them that time to just sort of explore. I like that ridiculous. I'm going to start saying that. This is your create something ridiculous time. I would love that.
Yes. Ridiculous, but appropriate for school. Yeah, always that.
I always say, whatever you want, as long as.
Yeah.
Text is, so if I wanted to add some text to this picture in effects, and then if I click on like the capital and lowercase a, I can just add it using different stickers. So you can't add a ton of text, but there's all these different stickers that you could use. And all of them are editable. So I could leave it at wow, or I could say, and then move it wherever you want. So the text is in effects, and they're just kind of these different stickers. Just kind of scroll. And then when you are ready, I'm thinking the easiest, like I'm just saving the video to my camera roll, and then I can upload it onto that Padlet.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
I think this could be kind of a fun, I'm doing that Apple Learning Coach program, and we had to use it as an introduction. That's what I have, this coaching cycle. But so I made sort of an introduction to tell teachers sort of what I do. And it was fun because I could have video, and then I could add in photos, like something like this coaching cycle, photos of lessons I'd done in classrooms, just to kind of explain, you know, what I do, and if teachers invite me, what I could do in their classrooms. I think that could be a really cool like teacher introduction. Like you could make a clips to kind of talk about you in your classroom and share that with parents. You know, that could be on, if you have a class website, or on a QR code outside of your classroom door or something, just as a nice introduction to you and your class.
Jerry says he's trying to add or remove effects with the trim tool, but can't seem to get the effects option to come up as he goes.
Let's look at that. So
Tracy, maybe I messed this up. What I'm trying to do is I made a little video and I recorded in it, but I'm looking around my room and I'm pointing out different things. And I'm trying to get like the arrow tools and things like that to show on the items while I talk about it, but then go away. Am I in the wrong place to do that?
No, you're in the right place. It does just take a lot of, it would be a lot of like splitting to get them where you want them to be. So, like here on this one, remember how I had recorded it as one video, but
Right.
if I just wanted the high at this very first part, I would have to split it and then kind of move that bar. Like where I want it to stop, I would move that bar and then split it.
Okay, and how do you do this? Okay, the split is down
Yep.
there.
And
And then-
now see how it's made it into separate clips. So now I would open up that next one and let's pretend, okay, now I want that little arrow or whatever. Now I would come in and grab the arrow and move it to be pointing at whatever it is you want it to point at. But then if you want to have that stop, you'd have to split it again, wherever you wanted that to stop, you know, drag it to
Right.
that and then
And
click.
is that the trim tool that I'm supposed to be seeing that with?
It's so right beside trim is split. So trim will just trim
Oh,
off
okay.
like, you
Yeah, I
know.
don't have that. I have,
Oh, okay.
my bar has, on one side of trim is delete and on the other side is save clip.
Oh, okay.
So I have live titles, effects, mute, delete, trim, and save clip are my only options.
So yours isn't probably quite updated either. So you might see
Okay.
if it will let you update.
I did it earlier today.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you might want to check your iOS. It seems like that might be maybe just an older version of the app, and maybe it won't let you
Okay.
add anymore. If
So
not,
is there a way that I can put in an effect and then remove it otherwise? Is there another way I can do it, or is it just gonna stay there the whole video?
it would stay there the whole, yeah, so it would stay there the whole video.
Oh, okay.
So like if you put it here, like you'd be pointing, it would still stay there. So you'd almost have to like go record them all as separate videos.
Right.
Like here I'm showing you my writing center and have it pointing to the writing center, then stop that video and then add a different video where you can point at something else. You'd almost just want to add it as a bunch of short little videos.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll encourage you to go ahead and keep playing and putting things on the Padlet. And Traci, I think maybe we can move on through the rest of our stuff and give our prizes away and keep playing in the background for sure and share things to that Padlet because that's super fun. So we'll go through partner resources here. And these are, if you were with us last time, they are the same, so I won't spend too much time, but if you're looking for the resources to have kids do some research on their family, the Montana Historical Society gave us these links to share with you, and you'll see them on slide 21, and they're linked right there in the slides. The oral history in the classroom mini footlocker link. And then if you have kids whose families may have homesteaded in Montana, they can go to the BLM GLO records. And I think I shared a couple workshops ago, super fun to type in my family's last name, my maiden name, and to see the records of my great grandpa's homesteading from Norway up in northern Montana. And even uncovered a mystery in our family with a man who had homesteaded in Fergus County. We have no record of this person being related to us, so we're not sure where that came from. My dad was boggled. And then you can find digitized newspapers online, as well as the family search site as well, are great places if you want to send kids searching about their family. If they run up dry with going through family photo albums and scrapbooks, have them go check out some of these sites. And then our Humanities Montana partner has their Speaker in the Schools program. and they're adding more every day. I just saw an update that they've invited some new speakers into their program. And so these are virtual, so you can set up a local storyteller to come into your school and inspire your students with historical stories. And hopefully that will get them excited to go and tell their own stories about their own families. Traci, anything to add about Apple Clips or digital storytelling?
No, I just think I love that so many of you are attending so many of these different sessions, because I think giving kids choice, like exposing them to a few of these tools and then giving them that choice, and now tell your story, tell your family story, and you get to pick from these tools how you're going to tell that story, just gives them so much ownership over that learning. And so I just love that there's so many of these tools available to us, and that many of you are here learning about lots and lots of them. So thanks for hanging with us on a Valentine's Day. It was great.
We will have Sarah Dahl here sharing about Wevideo, which is a tool that works on all devices. Actually, I'm not sure it works on Apple products. I don't know why you wouldn't need to use it on an Apple product, but it is a video editing tool that allows you to take video and then add effects, and including green screen and different subtitles and things like that. Really powerful digital storytelling tool. So we'll learn about that one next week from Sarah. Tomorrow, look for an email from me with your OPI credits, and as well as the recording. As soon as I have it edited, I'll send you the link so you could watch it again if you want to get to the parts that you were wondering about, or share it with any of your colleagues. And I think with that, we can let you go and enjoy your Valentine's Day, either alone or with your sweetheart. Thanks everybody for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing more of your Apple Clips projects showing up on our Padlet. So have a great night, everybody. It was great to have you here.
Good night, Nick. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see that familiar background back there.
It never changes.
Yeah. Thanks, Traci. It was great to have you again.
Good to see you. Bye.
We'll see you all next week, hopefully.